Right, right. Or when you spend $200 on Colorado Rockies tickets and do all the planning and preparing, you put it in a calendar 2 months out, you drive an hour, you show up to the stadium and your son dumps a freaking slushie on the stranger sitting in front of him and then gets pissed off at me because I'm telling him he can't have his slushie. Yeah, give me the tools to deal with that. Put me under the heaviest squat bar that was ever created. I don't care. Crushes me into the ground and puts me in the hospital.
I don't want to get back up from underneath this bar.
Dude. All right, cool. Let's dive into it, man. It's our Ask Us Anything episode. We got some great questions. I think we want to get in 20 this week. I think we have 9 here that we're going to try to hit. And what I like about this month's questions is some of them that came in are actually connected to the episodes of this month. So we had Katie Herzog on that talked about Drink Your Way Sober, which is the Sinclair method using medication. We have Mike Hardenbrook, who talked about supplements in general, but also how you can use those to kind of help with some habits. And then some other ones. So I think I'm going to start. I'm going to flow through. We're going to start with alcohol as the topic. I think this question's great. Sometimes you get so in the weeds around alcohol and habits that you start asking these kind of complicated questions. And this is probably the most important, but the simplest question around alcohol. So we're going to start with you, Justin, on your answer. But the first question here is, how do you know if your drinking is, quote, bad enough to need help versus just normal social drinking? Great question.
It's a fantastic question, and one that, I wish I asked a little bit sooner in my life. I think when we ask ourselves this question, the easiest answer to go to is playing the comparison game with ourselves compared to somebody else that we know or that we heard. And 9 times out of 10, the people that we're comparing ourselves to, we know are worse than whatever it is we're making it out to be in our heads that we are. But, going through this maze in my head many, many times over the years, I think it could have been answered a lot quicker and more effectively if I asked myself the question, is alcohol pulling me away from the life that I want to be able to live? And that can look like many different things. And to take it even further, is it stealing your mornings? Is it stealing your nights? Is it stealing your peace? Your ability to see yourself for who you really are. I think being able to ask yourself those quick questions and have an answer of is my ability to be present with my family affected by alcohol? Is my ability to be a good employee affected by alcohol? It doesn't have to be Jimmy down the street crashed his truck into the neighbor's house with 7 kids in the car last week. I'm not as bad as, it doesn't have to be that. And I feel like a lot of times when this question's asked, it's when people are hovering usually towards the side of the spectrum they don't want to go to with drinking and everything. But people are waiting for this rock bottom to be hit. And your rock bottom doesn't have to come with your casket. It doesn't have to be this eye-opening, horrible, somebody has to die in order for me to make a change. Crisis doesn't, you don't need crisis in order to have a change occur with it. You know what I mean? And just getting ahead of this and asking yourselves these questions before, something horrible happens is probably the best thing you can do. So everybody listening, I hope you can challenge yourself and ask yourself this question right now.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with everything you said. And then I'm going to kind of add some buckets on things or ways we might self-evaluate. Because also I'll kind of piggyback off what you said. What you led with your answer was essentially, and these are my words, not yours, but if it's taking you away from your goals, if it's negatively impacting your life, well, how can it do that? And I think 4 buckets to evaluate, and there could be more than this, but I think if it's impacting your physical health, if it's impacting your emotional health, if it's impacting your bank account, and that could be tied to your career performance, or if you're literally spending money on drinking or going out, and is it impacting your relationships? Right. So I think if you look at those 4 buckets, physical health, what should our goals be? We want to be fit, generally fit. Emotionally health, what are our goals? We want to be happy and maybe present, which you and I talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Bank account, I mean, your goal doesn't need to be, I want to be wealthy, but you want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And then relationships, you want to feel love and respect and you want to give love and respect. And I think it doesn't need to be something where, okay, alcohol is impacting all of those things. But to wrap this up, I think if your drinking is impacting even one of those,
Yeah.
that could be an indicator that you need to assess. And
Yeah. Let's reevaluate.
exactly, but I completely agree with you in that, like, the comparison thing is like, if you
Yeah.
take some train wreck, rock bottom scenario and say, "Well, I'm not that, I'm good," that's just giving yourself permission to
Yeah.
continue down the road. And then the last thing I'll say is, for the person who asked this question or anyone listening, if you are asking this question, you are already probably drinking too much or you're going down that road, because why is that on your mind?
Exactly. Yep.
That's what I would say to that. So awesome. Next one has to do with supplements and habit building. This is good too, man. Again, a simple question that helps you kind of think deep about it. But the question is,
Yeah.
how do you decide whether you need supplements at all versus just eating better?
Mm,
That's a good one.
that is a very good one. Uh, I mean, you'll hear both of us talk about this a lot on the podcast, but obviously, I think we should be aiming to get the majority of our, micro and macros from our actual diet. But I don't think there's many people out there who are getting their full, RDA of vitamins and minerals from their diet. So I think everybody should be taking at least a multivitamin and fish oil, like we talk about many times. But outside of that, I think it can get pretty scenario specific. I think, are you having trouble? Is it sleep that you're struggling with? Is it something that you're not able to fall asleep, or you're able to fall asleep quick, but you're finding yourself waking up a ton? Like, that's when I think we can move from, okay, let's assess the diet first and see what are you having throughout the day and before bed. But if not, let's try, supplementing with X, Y, and Z. But um, yeah, I always go back to diet. But fully understanding that reality of the situations most likely are people aren't getting everything they should be from their diet. So that's when introducing the supplements as needed would be my recommendation.
Yeah. I think if I just double click on the question, need supplements, I think that misses a point. It almost implies that you should only take supplements if you need them.
Yeah.
And I think there are some science backed, really, really good supplements that are healthy for anybody, even if you are eating well. And I agree with you that unless you're basically a professional athlete and that is your job to be on top of your nutrition and your exercise, almost all of us are lacking in something, even if you eat healthy around the clock. So I think there are some fundamental creatines that you should take year round that you don't need them. You should just take
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about it all the time, but in case there's new listeners on the show, I mean, you and we are aligned on fish oil. I think we're aligned on creatine, right?
Yep.
Nootropic and physical benefits there. I think an interesting one to think about is vitamin D. If you're not going
Yeah.
out in the sun enough, there's so many benefits of just having like a baseline of adequate vitamin D. And
Especially
then go ahead.
N2 and
What's
testosterone
that?
purposes.
Yeah, exactly. And on the multivitamin one, interesting. You said everyone should take that. I would disagree.
I love that.
Yeah, in that I think that if you do eat a well-rounded, if you have a well-rounded nutritional kind of like lifestyle, I
Mm-hmm.
think you can get the micronutrients that you need. However, I would agree that most people aren't doing that, so they might
Yeah.
consider a multivitamin. And I'm of the mindset of, if you're going to go the multivitamin route, there's this kind of like middle door where instead of taking a pill, you can
Mm-hmm.
look into like daily greens or something
Yep.
like that. Because
Exactly.
I think most people who aren't getting the micronutrients they need, they're probably not getting them from vegetables,
Yeah.
leafy
That's a good
green.
point.
Yeah, and that's where like a daily green can help. But yeah, I think everyone should be taking something. But then if you need additional supplementation, that's where I'd say you might want to seek like a holistic type coach or a integrative doctor, because they might like
Yeah.
do some blood work and say,
I was
well,
just gonna, yep.
you're lacking. And then you get medical advice to go ahead and lean into something. But what do you think?
Yeah. Blood work.
Agree?
I was going to say, I mean, at the end of the day, you really want to find out what you are or what you're lacking or not lacking, get blood work.
Mm-hmm.
A full panel, hormonal, holistic, obviously the better. Get as many markers tested as you can, especially men, as you continue to age like fine wine in this wonderful life, making sure everything's going accordingly underneath that.
I agree. I think we had a question last month, which had to do with it like aging, like what kind of workouts should I do at 30? And we were both like, well, don't worry about that. Like, wait until you're a little older. But on the topic, and I agree with you on blood work, I don't think it's as common as it should be. But I think men and women, when they do reach a certain age, assuming they've been relatively healthy up until that point,
Yeah,
35, 40, I think it's so helpful for your future to get a very, very comprehensive blood analysis done so that you can establish a baseline for
exactly.
for the future. I think
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't have to be like, well, I don't feel right now, so I wanna wait until something's going on to get it checked. Like, no, establish that baseline so you know whether or not you're feeling a certain way, that things are in line, or there's an area that you got to look into and get ahead of, rather than react to down the line when it's a little bit too late.
100%. Agreed. All right, man. Next question. I basically already answered this, but this is moving towards kind of fitness and training.
Yeah.
Great question. Everyone's got a morning routine. What's yours? What's yours?
So, and if my wife, my beautiful, amazing, perfect wife, listens to this, she can attest to this. But one of the things that I make fun of myself for now, when I'm like getting ready, excuse me, for bed, or like where we're wrapping up for the night, and I'll make a comment. I was like, well, just setting myself up for future success tomorrow morning. And like I've started realizing how, like, just like me as a person, I wake up, and like if I'm going to the gym early now, like, which I'm back in the habit of doing, and it's awesome, the best way to start my day. Like, I'll wake up and it's like, oh, I got to get to the gym like quick. So everything's in a rush because that's how my brain is. But like, I have found that doing like the smallest things to like set yourself up for, again, having a better morning. And that's just like setting up my coffee routine for the morning,
Yeah.
so I'm not banging through drawers and shit at 5 a.m, waking everybody up. And but like even that saves me 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes in the morning when you're trying to get a workout in before the world's awake feels like an eternity. I feel like if you're at the gym, you're like, oh, I got 5 minutes. That's like three more sets with 30 seconds rest in between. So I got like 45 more reps I can do. Let's go. So
Unfortunately,
trying,
I completely relate.
but my morning routine, the best way that I can sum it up now, because it doesn't look 100% the same every morning, but it's starting my day with intentionality and movement, aka going to the gym, and then realizing how much of a ripple effect that has on the day of getting home as the kids are waking up, or when the kids are waking up, and I'm in a much happier and pain-free mood than I would be if I'm just rolling out of bed when they are. So
Love it.
um definitely that, I would say.
Look, 1 in 10 Americans today struggle with alcohol use disorder, and I was one of them. Did you know that there is a safe, science backed daily pill that you can take to drink less or even quit alcohol for good? It's called naltrexone, a doctor prescribed medication that you get online, and our sponsor, Or Health, is the nation's leading provider of naltrexone. To date, Or Health has helped over 35,000 people find freedom from alcohol, and I'm proudly one of them. To get started, text STRENGTH to 710-710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710-710, and get started on your journey to finally find freedom from alcohol. Yeah, I love it. What you're essentially saying is like your morning routine starts the night before.
It has to, because if not,
Yeah,
I'll feel like I'm a step behind, and that's nope, not happening anymore,
I
Jess.
agree.
I'm in control, damn it.
That's right. Happy to hear you're up doing your morning lifts. By the way, I know how important that is to you to set your day up right. So I agree, man. I think something as simple as laying out your clothes
Yeah.
and setting out. Sometimes even this is so I don't know, psychotic maybe, but like I'll even put the powder from my pre workout in the shaker and put it in.
Yeah,
It's just one less thing to do,
it
but
is, and it's safe.
it really is.
It
But I
makes a
think
difference.
it does start. Think about this, like if part of your night routine is to get to bed by a certain time, and then out of impulse, compulsion, you're scrolling internet in your bed or something, and
Yeah.
then you're pushing your sleep, and then you're still trying to hit your wake up goal. That's going to jack you up. So get to bed, do as much as you can before. I already touched on my morning routine. It's working now. Granted, I've been doing it for 2 weeks because I've only had a cold plunge for 2 weeks. But on strength training days, I just love it, man. Up in that thing as fast as I can. Caffeine, whether that sometimes I do double espresso, sometimes it is a pre-workout, just on my mood. Strength train, and then have a goal to get done, because then the next part, and I do consider this part of my morning routine, is shut all that like me time down and then step into family time and be
Yep.
helpful, getting the kids out the door, help my wife and just kind of like be part of that, talk to them, be intentional and
Mhm.
tell them you love them, have a good day. And then I transition right into work mode and I'm off for the races. But the one thing my morning routine is missing is I would say like mindfulness, and that could be through reading or meditation because both are kind of exercising the same muscle, deep focus. But for now, like I got to tell you, my mornings feel a little cramped. So to like, I'm down in the cold plunge, caffeine go, like to say like, okay, I'm going to sit for 10 minutes and. So what I'm trying to do is in the cold plunge for that 2 minutes and it's still dark out, I'm doing breath work and I'm actually just trying to clear my mind and I just stare at like the dark sky and I got to tell you, I go to a different place. So
Yeah.
for now, that's how I'm getting some mindfulness in the morning. But I think that is something that's still lacking for me, whether I'm opening up the Bible or just reading like 5 pages in a book that I'm reading. But we'll see. I'll get there. I'm still trying to get this cold plunge thing down. So
You're already doing it, man. The hard part's
yeah,
getting
true.
started. You check that off.
4 times this week. All
Let's
right.
go.
Good one here. I think underneath this question has to do with time management a little bit, recognizing that both cardio and strength training are essential for overall well-rounded fitness. But the question is, how do you balance zone 2 cardio
Mm.
with heavy lifting without burning out?
It's a great question. And I think unless you're calculated and strategic about it, you will burn yourself out. There's been many of workouts that I've walked away from throwing up when I fully wasn't planning on doing that. But it was a result of only me. Like for instance, my split may have got messed up because of travel for work or something. I ended up having to be doing back day on the same day that I wanted to end with, heavy assault bike sprints. And stuck to that and said, all right, I'm going to do my normal back split, and then I'm going to end with the same type of high intensity that I typically do when I'm going for that, and quickly realized that I'm already taxed and I can't do that. So I think, and Jess, we were talking about this at the beach the other week too, but like understanding that it's whatever you're doing with a different intentionality than you would be if it was just like hey, it's the end of the workout, I'm going to walk for 25 minutes on a slow incline. Like you are going to be fully taxing your central nervous system and your body a little bit more than you probably have been in the past if you're not used to it. So it doesn't have to be I'm going to go for 99% for 50 seconds and then 10 seconds off and then jump back into it. Like assess how you're feeling, assess what your training and your diet looks like, and then see what kind of adjustments you have to make in order to be able to still walk away feeling like you achieved the workout that you wanted to and, maintain the intensity in the right zone. But it doesn't have to be balls to the wall every single workout in order to feel like you can walk away saying that was a good workout.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm gonna kind of answer it tactically here because this is my life. This is
Yeah.
something zone 2 is important to me for longevity, and also I strategically place it early in the day, fasted for fat loss, so more aesthetics. And I wouldn't say heavy lifting is a goal. I mean, obviously, I can't clarify this question, but heavy lifting kind of says to me like you're almost like a power lifter and maybe you're doing a lot of like really, really like high effort, high load work. And I would say this, if you are an athlete who is really focused on like endurance running, and you're investing a lot of time in that, it is going to be hard to balance strength training without sacrificing family time, work time, etc. And then conversely, if you're like a competitive power lifter or, whatever, like even like bodybuilder maybe, but you're going to want to invest more of your time there. And it's going to be hard to pick up that zone 2 time, which takes a while. And I would even say, since it's my show and I can say what I want, I wouldn't focus too much on like that high effort, heavy load lifting because you will burn out, and you'll get hurt. So as- very quickly. So assuming you want to balance both and you want to kind of follow, best practices, I would say, and this is exactly what I do, I shoot for 90 minutes of zone 2 every single week. And I'll choose my 2 strength training sessions that, subjectively speaking, are the least difficult. To
Yeah,
be
exactly.
specific, upper push hypertrophy day. So chest, shoulders, triceps. That is an easy workout for me as much as I want to make it difficult. It's just not, it doesn't tax my central nervous system. So what I'll do is I'll take that workout and choose that one. And I'll even like introduce like supersets. I'll reduce the rest periods. And I try to get that strength training done in 45 minutes so that I have 30 minutes after. Now, granted, that's an hour and 15 minutes, probably a little bit longer, but I sacrifice my sleep to do it. Whole nother conversation. But bottom line is I'll position 2 of those sessions, they're each 30 minutes, after my easier strength training sessions. And then when you get into like heavy pull
Yeah.
day, if I'm doing heavy deadlifts, I'm not running after that because I will burn out. And if
Yeah.
I'm hitting like 4 sets of 8 with heavy squats, I don't do my cardio after that. So if you're trying to get 90 minutes, which is basically recommended as a not a minimum, but like a sweet spot,
Yeah.
I'll put 2 of those sessions at the end of 2 of my strength training sessions. And then I have a dedicated day right in the middle of the week. It's Wednesday where I don't do strength training at all. And I'll do 45 minutes.
There you go.
Dunzo. And I think one other topic, and we don't have to dig into it, but when I look at my heart rate tracker, so I use Whoop, when I look at that at the end of the week and I look at my zone 2, I just looked at it this morning, it's Friday. I have 3 hours and 45 minutes of intentional zone 2 training done this week. However, I've only done 90 minutes of cardio. Where did it come from? My heart rate gets up to zone 2 when I'm strength training. And there
Yeah.
is some debate, and I haven't looked into it enough to confirm what's true, but there is this question to ask of, do you get the same benefits if you're getting into zone 2 in strength training and just daily life, like chasing your kids around? Is it
Yeah.
the same benefit if it's intentional, sustained cardio? And I've heard 2 different answers.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna say.
it's tricky, but my point there is even if you fall short of whatever your weekly goal is for zone 2, keep in the back of your mind that you might be getting or picking up that extra zone 2 in just the rest of your week.
Yeah.
So just don't beat yourself up about it, is what I
Yeah.
would say. Look, life can be hard and stressful sometimes. We all know that. But when it comes to supplements, why is it that nobody talks about stress and resilience? For me, I take the adaptogen stack from Momentous Supplements. It's a daily blend of ashwagandha, rhodiola, and L-theanine, all clinically backed to help you stay calm, focused, and resilient. I'm proudly partnered with Momentous Supplements because they are the industry's best. They don't cut corners. Everything's third-party tested, used by pro athletes, and high quality. Head to livemomentous.com and use code STRENGTH for 35% off your first order. Again, that's livemomentous.com, code word STRENGTH for 35% off your first order, and get started today.
I'm agreed, man.
Yeah, I got to look into that and kind of confirm. I think Dr. Galpin was kind of trying to hit on this topic. Like, does zone 2 have to be like sustained steady state, or can you just get the benefits elsewise? But
Yeah. No, it's a good. I'm sure there's definitely arguments supporting both sides. So
yeah. All right, man. Next one, staying on training. So this one's a great question. It's similar to questions we've gotten in the past, but not exactly. Question is, at 40, like me, should I be training heavy like I did in my 20s, or focus more on mobility and lighter weights?
Hmm. It's a very good question. I think first response would be, what are you training for? Like, what are your current goals with everything that you're doing? Like, are you training to be a marathon athlete, or are you training because you want to look good on the beach, or are you training because you want to be living a long, healthy life and be around for your kids later in life? Like, um, should we be training like we did in our 20s? One, I hope none of us are still training like we did in our 20s and that our training evolved a bit.
True.
My training in my 20s has my back issues in my mid 30s right now. So
Amen.
I don't think we should be copying and pasting old habits with that. But no, I think, again, depending on what your goals are, like, there's certain things that Jesse and I both talk about a lot on previous episodes of like what I think everybody should be using as staples in their life, from cardio routines to, strength training. Um, I think both of what you said should still be part of what your routines are, again, pending your goals. But should we still be training somewhat heavy? Yeah. If you want to progress still, yes, we should be, training smart and heavy, but also understanding that we're not going to be moving the same loads and intensity that we did when we were younger. That's just the way the human body works. And that's something that we better all accept sooner than later. If not, we're going to be
Yeah.
hurting ourselves. So we're going to have to be, adjusting our training based off of what phase of life we're at. Like, cardio is going to have to be a lot more important to us now than it did when we were in our 20s. And making sure that we're actually taking care of the things that are making us go, outside of just, how are we looking in the mirror. So definitely still be challenging yourself with strength training and lifting and progressing in terms of load and intensity, but in a way that is, smart and specific to your goals and your body. But yeah, you said mobility. That is something I wish I began including in my 20s and not
Heck yeah.
waiting until I have to start digging out adhesions that I didn't know existed or should be there.
Yeah. Um, I like that you said challenge. So I'll start with that. Every time you lift weights, you should be challenging yourself. And
Yeah.
you should be progressively challenging yourself more because that's how the adaptations that you're
Yep.
seeking happen. That's how your muscle grows. That's how your bones get stronger. And both muscle mass and bone strength or bone density are really important for aging. So I think you should be challenging yourself. Um, like you, mobility. What the hell is that? When I was in my 20s, not even a thought. And like you, I sure wish it was. So I think my answer would be: should you be training heavy like you're in your 20s? Probably not, because if you're 40, I would hope you learned something in the 10, 15, 20 years since then. And what you probably should have learned is train safe and hard, right? So no, you shouldn't be training like your 20s. However, you can train heavy relative to you by challenging yourself with weights. And I think what's important to do is as you age, assess the movements that you're doing. Perfect example that so many people can relate with who have been squatting with weights for, 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually, something will break down, and there will be people who disagree with this, but eventually putting a heavy barbell over your spine and squatting deep to the ground will cause some discomfort and potentially an injury. My point is, as you age 40, 45, 50, recognize that you can get not as much of a stimulation of your muscles and as much growth, but why not take those weights, transition them underneath you so they're not on your spine and putting pressure on your lower back, and do a belt squat if your gym has one. Do a Bulgarian split squat because you're going to be hitting the same muscles, but it's going to be safer and you can lift heavy and challenge yourself that way. So point there is just question the movements, not necessarily
Yeah.
the goal, right?
Yep.
And on mobility, I do think as we age, because you're just putting more tread on the tires if you're strength training decade after decade, I do think that you should, as this question asks, quote, focus more on mobility than in your 20s because you won't need it as much when you're younger. But I think mobility needs to be something that is focused on and intentional, not an afterthought. And then the last piece of that question was lighter weights. No, you don't need to do lighter weights. I think you should pick a safe movement, set a rep range, and do the weights that are appropriate that get you to that rep range and then adjust them accordingly. So you don't have to go into it like I should lift lighter. You should just always be lifting what is appropriate for your strength.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And there's other ways to progress too, rather than just putting more plates on the bar too. And I know that's the meathead mentality of what we think progression is, but challenge yourself with how long you want to be doing eccentrics and concentric movements. Like let's do 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up, or let's do
Yes.
what range of motion updates are we making? Are we having any isometric holds throughout the rep range? Like
Yes.
there's so many different ways that we can, further challenge our bodies and what our muscles are adapting to than just saying, I got to put more weight on the bar. It's the only way I'm going to grow, you
Yep.
know?
Exactly. I think three terms I wish I learned and understood, I think, as it relates to strength training that I understand now that I didn't: range of motion, time under tension, and contraction. Feeling the muscles that you're intending to work. I think a lot of people are like me and can relate that for whatever reason, if I did a bicep curl, I literally felt my bicep muscle tightening and I
Hmm.
felt it contracting. Doing a barbell bench press, I never felt like my chest fully contracting, which is an indicator
No.
that you're not using that muscle. So there was times when I could do a close grip bench press and do almost as much weight as a wider grip bench press. And what does that tell you? It tells you that my triceps are doing a lot of the work. So the point is, I think if you focus on more of those kind of like less talked about but important aspects,
Yeah.
range of motion, time under tension, and contraction, I think you're going to get those adaptations that you're looking
Yeah.
for. So that's just a little side note there as we age and train. So
Hmm.
yeah, man, I feel like I'm talking a lot this episode. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're doing good. I don't think that at all. Well, I just wish you would shut up, man.
Thank you. All right, man. I think I speak for both of us, but going into kind of our favorite category here, which is more about lifestyle and parenting,
Yeah.
busyness. Man, so we're gonna go back to alcohol here, but I think this is such an awesome question. Question is, how do you stop yourself from using alcohol as an escape when parenting gets overwhelming?
Mm,
Good Lord.
yeah. I mean, insert your vice of choice here. It doesn't just have to be
Good point.
alcohol, but
Good point.
obviously, me personally, and my answer to this question is by the grace of hindsight, I'm able to say, I remember what it almost cost me. Trying to use that as my justification of like, oh, it's been the kids have been driving. I haven't slept great in a week. Like I deserve this drink. And that quickly turns into, what it turns into. I think we all have to ask, rather than resorting to what vice can I use to help myself escape, like, what are we escaping from? Like, what is really the issue here? Is your kid being a child and having struggles going to bed really what you're that mad about? Or are you mad because you can't control your reaction to your kid being upset at the end of the day because you're already stressed and emotional from work and not taking care of yourself and not making time to work out and do the things that help you
Yeah.
unwind and manage your emotions in a way that you're able to respond to your children's in a way that's not pure anger or lashing out when they need to be met with love and empathy and understanding and where they're at as a kid. So, that was a rabbit hole. But I think understanding what it is that's actually triggering you, and why you're getting triggered and looking to escape from that. Because a lot of the times it's easy to say, my kid had a temper tantrum. Like, no shit, I deserve a drink after that. But like, that's not why. That isn't the reason. Like parenting's hard. Like, no shit, parenting's hard. This is what the fuck we all signed up for.
Yeah.
Like we should not be looking to escape from the thing that we knew was going to come with the good nights and the good days and the hard nights and the hard days and the good and the bad. But like this, your kids are always watching. So whether or not your kid's at the age to be able to understand, like, this daddy drinking because I'm hard to deal with, like, think of the precedent that you're setting. And I'm as guilty of it too. I did the same shit. And like now I'm able to say, like, I can't go back to that and I can't escape from what I created. Like, this is my doing and I'm gonna die on that hill. But um ask yourself what you're escaping from and what's actually triggering you. That's the short answer.
Yeah. It's because overwhelmed or overwhelming is in the question. I'm going to kind of frame it around that word, and I'm listening to you. And I think that there's two answers here. There's two steps. It's one, and you just answered this, or kind of like in the vein of this, but like, how do you prevent yourself from getting overwhelmed in the first
Yeah.
place? And that's not what this is asking. This is insinuating I'm already there. What do I do? But
Yeah.
I think it is important to ask that question as a kind of byproduct of this: is why am I overwhelmed? And then, let those answers guide what you should do. And we talk
Yeah.
about these things and you just did, but how do you have the right perspective? How do you structure your day so that you're better equipped in that moment and in that space to not get overwhelmed in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. And there's more to that, but I think that's the first thing. Why am I overwhelmed? And let those answers guide you. And then the second thing, was more to this question, is, okay, I'm overwhelmed. How do I cope with it? How do I prevent picking up a drink, which unfortunately, it is effective in
Yeah.
coping, right?
Agreed.
So more in the practical sense, I think another word that we use often, and I think it needs to be used more, is dysregulated. When I hear overwhelmed and attach it to parents, I think noise, I think deadlines, I think all the things that go into being dysregulated, maybe
Overstimulated. Yeah.
overstimulated. And I say that to say, maybe I'll just introduce one kind of thing to think about. There's this idea of, how do you ground yourself?
Mhm.
How do you turn down that noise and literally, in this case, like, regulate your nervous system? And I think, assuming it's safe to do this, I think it is okay to literally, physically, temporarily remove yourself from whatever's overwhelming you. And sometimes you can't, but sometimes you can. I'm picturing busy kitchen, crazy cries, fights, all that stuff. And I think just going in another physical space and doing, like, just close your eyes and just do like 2 to 3 minutes of some breathing. And you might have a mantra. I don't. I'm it's just not something I have. But like, if you have a mantra or something, like, I'm okay. I'm okay. We're okay. But I think the physical separation from whatever's overstimulating you, combined with just a little focus and breath work to just bring your nervous system down, is going to
Yeah.
give you enough to step back into that environment and just kind of push through. And then look, if I'm being really honest, like at times when, I was a stay-at-home dad for 18 months, at times that I was just like in my head anyway, like, what the hell? Like this is insane. Like, no problem. I have no problem being like, all right, you know what, guys? Put on Bluey for 10 minutes. Daddy needs space. Like, daddy needs space to be vulnerable, to say that. This is hard. I need a minute.
Yep.
Put on Bluey, walk in the other room, bring it back in, go
And then
back
I'm good.
go
Yep.
back into the fire. But I think the physical separation is something that helps. But also, again, if you're asking yourself this question, you're using alcohol as a tool. And I think, it would be much easier in that moment to work on that habit as well on the side. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. All right.
100%.
Next question, related, sort of, somewhat funny here, but what is harder, putting up with toddler tantrums or finishing a heavy squat set?
It depends on the day, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say those toddler tantrums leave more of a lasting burn than a spot set.
Scarring, even injury?
Yeah, some permanent muscular damage.
So you're going toddler tantrums?
I'm going toddler tantrums. Yeah, 100%. I think
Yeah,
they're
hands down.
they can be bloody.
Yeah, because a heavy squat set is a minute.
I look forward to that pain.
Yeah.
I, you know,
Go ahead, sorry.
I know that's the other kind. That's an emotional trauma that you're walking away with from that tantrum.
Yeah, I think based on the duration of the pain or discomfort, I'll take a heavy squat set over a 35-minute toddler tantrum. By
Yeah,
the way, followed by the rest of the day, that toddler being exhausted and ornery and illogical and
that
crazy.
whole day shot, man. Might as well just go back to bed and start over.
I know, dude,
Heavy
exactly.
squat set. I'm big on being able to, if it's self-inflicted pain, like I caused it, I can sleep with it. But if it's a toddler tantrum that throws off the entire course of the day,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
usually happen on weekends too. Like when you got something fun planned, then it's
right.
like, oh, I guess we're not fucking doing that anymore.
Right, right. Or when you spend $200 on Colorado Rockies tickets and do all the planning and preparing, you put it in a calendar 2 months out, you drive an hour, you show up to the stadium and your son dumps a freaking slushy on the stranger sitting in front of him and then gets pissed off at me because I'm telling him he can't have his slushy. Yeah, give me the tools to deal with that. Put me under the heaviest squat bar that was ever created. I
I
don't
need
care.
every, I
Crushes
need,
me into the ground and puts me in the hospital all
I don't want to
freaking
get
baked
back
up.
up from underneath this bar.
Dude, no way. I'll say though, man, like, I plan my workouts out like you do. And I know like, week 4, I'm going to be sending it as all the young
Uh-huh.
kids say. But I'm looking at like, next week's like lower body workout. And if I know I'm going to try to get under like a 4 rep near maximal squat, like I'm thinking about that. I'm like, man, that's going
Oh
to
yeah.
suck. That's really
I
gonna,
do that stuff that like the night before, like if I know that's my next workout, that's all I'm thinking about. And that's a me problem, 100% a me problem.
yeah,
But like
yeah.
my brain's like, shit, like, what are we gonna do? Like, you think I'm
We're
gonna be able to squeeze out one more? Or am I gonna get one less? Like, this is gonna determine how the rest of the day goes, Justin.
Even like when I get to that workout, I know like I'm gonna have 4 heavy sets. Like I'm like dicking around, like procrastinating.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. This song isn't cutting it today. It
Yeah,
usually does. These
just
headphones are
trying to
dying. I gotta
delay.
go back out to the car.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I guess we're still not following our advice, and we're still training
Yep.
heavy at
We'll
40.
edit this part out of the episode.
Man, I can't help myself. But yeah, all right. So that's pretty straightforward there. Consensus. I'll take a heavy squat over a tantrum any day. Man. All right, cool. Last question and a deep one. I love it. What's one habit every parent should try to model for their kids?
uh, just one.
Yeah, it's asking for one, but come on, you can give, we'll cap it at 3 if you want.
I think I shared this either on one of the most recent episode or when we were together. I can't remember which one, but um to sum up like one of the legacy I want to leave like to my kids and everything, like as a dad, like I want them to be able to say, like, I want them to be able to look back and say daddy was always there.
Mm,
And that looks like a couple different things, I think. Like, yeah, is it easy to just physically be there? Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're actually there. And that's something we talk about a lot. So I think being consistent is one. I'm gonna cut it at three. Being consistent, being intentional, and being present. I would say those are the three ingredients to the model and or legacy that I want to, ensure that my kids are always able to confidently say those are three things that daddy always did. He was always consistent and he was always intentional with us and was met us where we're at. He was able to get down to our level. Um, and he was always really there. He wasn't distracted. He wasn't on his phone the whole time, you know?
Yeah, because I think ultimately all three and those three combined is showing love and
Yeah.
making them feel valued.
That's all they want, man. That's all they want.
It was consistent, intentional, and present.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I won't use all of those, and this is hard because it says, "What's one habit?" Uh,
I already didn't answer the question right. So
no, no,
sorry.
you did, but it's like it doesn't say what is the most important. It just says what is one habit every day every parent should model. I don't know if there's one word for this, so I'm just gonna try to describe it. And it is hard, Justin. It's like, how do you pick one? So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna preface like this is one of maybe like the Mount Rushmore of maybe four, but I won't mention the other three. But I think what I never in my family growing up, I never learned how to deal with conflict in a healthy way.
Mm,
Um, it wasn't modeled. I grew up in a divorced household, so I got to kind of see two different sets of parenting, and I think it wasn't. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but there was some passive aggressiveness. There was conflict that existed that everybody knew deep down, but it wasn't addressed.
yeah.
And that's not healthy. And I think as a family, right? So you have a family of four, I have a family of five. There's going to be conflicts every single
Yeah.
day. And without using words as parents, both between spouses, if it's two spouses parenting or single household, whatever, but assuming it's like two parents in the household, they're watching how you do conflict. Do you raise your voice? Do you scream? Do you apologize? Do you come back around so that you can say, I got that wrong, et cetera? But even as parents with our kids, I think it's so important to model for them
Yeah.
how you're going to kind of like, because every time you discipline a kid, that's a conflict, right?
It is. Yeah.
And I think if I can, the question is model. Yeah, model. It's like I hope, and if my wife is listening, that she would agree with this. But I'm intentional about this, and I think I'm good at it. I apologize to my kids
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's important.
if I lose my temper or if I give them advice, guidance, whatever, and then afterwards I realize that it was wrong. I make sure that I go back and I tell them that. Sometimes I'll actually intentionally, if they're asking to do something and I don't want them to do it, I'm not like, I don't get so stubborn in my own head that like, no, I can't show them that I said this and this is it. I'll be flexible sometimes and let them like state their case as to why they think what they think is right. And then I'll say, okay, that's fine. But ultimately, there's this idea in my head of like, okay, if we have a conflict, if we address it openly with words, don't lose our tempers, communicate it, and then apologize if we're wrong. I think helping them learn how to do human relationships in a healthy way, including conflict, is going to set them up to be successful human beings. Because let's face it, you're going to have fights, disagreements.
But yeah.
You're going to offend people. People will offend you, especially when you get into the workspace and all that stuff. And I've had to learn the hard way, like how to like if I'm feeling offended or if I'm feeling something, how do I communicate it in a healthy way? How do I receive constructive criticism without being defensive? How
Yeah.
do I apologize? How do I forgive? Whatever the friggin' word is for that speech, like I feel like that would be a habit. It's healthy communication, but more specifically healthy conflict.
Yeah. I like that. And it's also, taking accountability and, showing that mommy and daddy can apologize too. And like you said, setting them up for that and being the example that they need for that because, I think that's insanely important. And Alyssa and I try and model that as well. It's not always easy, but if we're not going to be able to apologize to them, how are they going to be able to apologize to each other or somebody else when it comes to a conflict or something that they did or didn't do wrong? But no, I love that, man. Super
Yeah.
important.
Maybe it's humility. I don't know. There's a
Yeah.
word for whatever I just said, but that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. All right, dude. Awesome questions this
As
month.
always.
As always, deep, fun, fitness in there, some habits, all that stuff. But if you're listening and you have questions, you can go to our website, runningfreepod.com. There's a form there to submit your questions. You can DM us on any of our social accounts, wherever you follow us. So as always, thank you, Justin, for being here. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, as always. And yes, thank you, listeners. Until next time.
All right, everybody, that's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us, if you'd like, on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.